The Ghost's Message. This awesome story is written by Corpse Child. Corpse Child now has 3 books available: Damned Whispers, The Other Side, and Mortimer. Be sure to check them out. Also be sure to check out his website, Corpse Child Sanctuary. The Amazon links to the books and the website will also be listed below in the description. So grab your coffee, sit back and enjoy the show. This was what happens when I talked to a ghost. He told me to spread a message. I'm gonna wait for a second and let you all get all your little jokes out. You know what I'm talking about. I see dead people, blah blah blah. Yeah, I get it. You good now? Get it all out of your system yet? Okay, now to start. I haven't always been like that, able to see dead people. In fact, it was by most standards a more recent development. I think it was sometime around sophomore, maybe junior year of high school that it happened for the first time. To start, you need to know that before then, I'd never been one to hear voices or have imaginary friends or anything like that. I was a perfectly average kid managing to come up with no trouble whatsoever talking to others. I might not have been the cool kid, but I was cool enough, if you take my meaning. Yes sir, I was your everyday kid. Went to school, hated every second of every class, went to work at the taco joint, did that for a few hours, hating it, obviously, and then coming home and smoking a bowl before going to sleep. Rinse and repeat. It was one day at lunch under the bleachers in the football field where I always ate with Tori and Jacob that I first met Kendall. I remember that day clearly, actually. Tori was spouting off like she always did about how Mrs. Ullman was such a bitch for slapping her class with yet another project right after they just turned in the one she'd assigned them last week. When I heard his voice for the first time, it was something I didn't even notice at first, to be honest. At first I thought it was just Jacob interjecting, though I quickly realised this couldn't be the case when A, it didn't really sound much like him at all, and B, all he said was,
"Hey friend, I want to talk to you."
His voice was deeper than Jacob's. Not quite sounding like a grown man, but damn close to it. Deeper than everyone else at school, including the varsity football captain, who's a 6-foot mountain with legs that already needed to shave twice a day. You get the point, right? It sounded to me like it was coming from somewhere far out in the middle of the football field, specifically from the woods behind the bleachers on the other end. When I turned to look though, you guessed it, no one was there. Not that I could see anyway. I tried ignoring it, but for some reason I kept hearing him call my name. It wasn't so much disturbing or anything as it was straight up annoying. It carried on like this until finally, about 5 minutes till lunch was supposed to end, I got up and started making my way across the field and over into the woods. I made it there when the voice just stopped. "Hello?" I called out to no one. The only sound replying to me in that moment was the sound of the wind blowing through my hair. I was just about to turn around before I heard his voice again.
"Francine?"
I turned around. Still no one was there. What in the... I jumped when I felt what felt like a hand rest on my shoulder from behind me. When my head snapped around, nothing.
Francine,
Where are?
don't.
I stopped mid-turn.
Don't try to find where I am. You won't find me.
What? My head turned around to look, only to, of course, see absolutely nothing.
Told ya.
He said. His voice was deadpan in a way, like he was just about to tell me about how his dog died or something. Ironic, I know, but... oh, okay. Well, who, where, what the... I couldn't finish the thought. There were no words, none that were coming to me anyways.
I can't tell you.
Huh?
You were trying to ask me where I am and how I'm talking to you, right?
I nodded slowly, my knees starting to shake. Yeah?
Yeah, well, I honestly can't really tell you. You won't. You probably wouldn't get it.
Get what?
Nothing. Just... Look, Francine, I want you to know something.
My mouth opened to say something, but I couldn't force any words to come out.
You listening?
I nodded, mouth still agape.
There's something happening. Something big.
What?
Something's tearing the veil. I don't know what to do, but it's coming.
It's... I asked, shuddering.
Again, I can't tell you.
What?
Look, I know none of this makes a lick of damn sense to you, but please, for the love of all that's good, please spread the word.
What words?
That it's coming, and when it does, we're all goners.
Okay, but they're not gonna listen to me. Hell, I don't even know who the fuck you...
Kendall.
He blurted. I stopped and asked him to repeat what he'd said.
My name's Kendall, and I used to go here.
The school? I pointed behind me to the school.
Yeah.
I closed my eyes, trying to think of any of my friends or classmates named Kendall, of which there were none.
Forget it. You don't know me. You wouldn't have. It was a long time ago that I went there.
Wait, what you talking about? How long ago?
About early 98, maybe mid 99.
How?
Oh, what?
How could you have been a student here all that time ago when you're right here, talking to me?
I told you, I can't explain, but I swear I'm telling you the truth. Just please, make sure you tell everyone you know. Tell them everything you know, and have them spread the word.
But what? I stopped, no longer able to... Well, I don't know. I guess I could say feel him there anymore. For a solid minute I stood there in the trees, stupefied. I'd have stayed for hours longer if I hadn't heard the bell ringing for the end of lunch. I almost instantly forgot about what just happened and I took off, bolting back to the school building. I ended up being about 3 minutes late back to class, which, if it were anyone else's class, would have been a problem. But thankfully, it was just Mr. Ritter's class, which meant he wasn't even in the damn classroom until a good 10 or 15 minutes after the class was supposed to start anyway, like always. What wasn't so fortunate for me was the fact that in that time, waiting for the teacher to come in, Kendall decided to pay me another visit. This time he was right next to me, sitting in the empty seat next to me. The only empty seat in the entire room, because for some reasons, no one knew why, nobody would sit there.
Do it now, Fran.
he said. I tried keeping my eyes focused at the front of the room.
Come on, there's no time for you to get cold feet about this.
I said nothing. He shouted at me.
Fran!
This time, I turned to face away from the direction his voice was coming from. I heard a sigh come from him before, all of a sudden, my body seized up from a cold hand. At least, that's what it felt like, clutching my right shoulder for dear life. My body was stiff, but my mind was anything but. I was screaming at myself so loud. I'm almost surprised I didn't somehow go deaf from internal dialogue alone. Regardless, my body wouldn't, or really couldn't, move a single muscle. The most I could do was twitch violently, while something ice cold tightened its grip on my shoulder. When my eyes directed themselves to my shoulder, nothing was there. Nothing I could see anyway.
I didn't want to do this, Fran,
I heard him say. My heart sped up about 50 beats, probably more. What did he mean by didn't want to do this? Do what? My mouth fell open and I could see a small puff of breath come billowing out. Goosebumps broke out everywhere across my body when the fingers, for lack of any other word for them, tightened around my shoulder. I felt icicles stabbing into it. My mouth twitched both from the cold and the need to say something. I wanted to scream, tell him to fuck the hell off and leave me alone, but like everything else at the moment, it wouldn't cooperate either.
But since you won't believe me,
he continued. This time his voice carried this weird echo to it.
I have no choice but to show you.
Even if I were able to speak, I wouldn't have had the chance to ask him what the hell he was talking about before I was assaulted with images of a dark, boundless void. Darkness was surrounding me. I seemed to be floating in it, defying gravity, if that even could even exist in a place like this. There were no walls, ceiling, floor, no kind of boundaries at all. It was like I was seeing the world's startup screen, like I was in a VR simulator that hadn't loaded yet. I found myself able to move freely again, and when I turned to look up my shoulder, a kid about my age, give or take a year or two older, stood looking at me with the most blank, emotionless stare with milky white spheres for eyes. His skin was the colour of the sheets of paper on my desk, and his face was gaunt, concave, borderline emaciated. Who? Where? What the? My words were broken, just like my mind. His plastic expression didn't shift in the slightest. The look he was giving me told me I likely wasn't the first person he'd tried this little stunt with. That, and he'd seen all of this so much for so long that he couldn't even sympathise with mine or anyone's feelings of shock with it all.
You're in nothing,
he replied. Nothing? He shook his head. What do you mean,
Back to what I said, look around you.
I did, and well, I saw exactly that. Nothing. But how? How are we here? What did you...
Chill, honey bun, okay? You haven't gone anywhere. You're still in the school. I'm just showing you what's here on the other end, where I am.
My eyebrows crossed further. He said this like I was supposed to understand what the fuck it meant, and like I was supposed to actually trust him.
Look, I need you to see this.
As soon as he said this, streaks of white came sweeping past the two of us. The way they sped past, the momentum they carried, made the wind blow my hair in every direction. In spite of this, my hair blindfolding me, I managed to get a good look at one of the streaks, horrified to spot a face on it. Unnatural, hideous and agonizing. It looked, with its elongated mouth, stretching almost 5 or so feet long, like it was screaming. I couldn't hear anything, save for Kendall's voice at first. Then, though I heard a building chorus of crowd screaming coming from the other end of the void where the streaks were coming from, it started small, almost inaudible, and then built in pitch and volume until eventually they were deafening, and the only sound in the void that was discernible from them was Kendall's voice whenever he spoke again. Somewhat, anyway. I used my best approximation that I heard him correctly. The streaks all dogpiled to one central spot at the centre of the farthest end of the void. "What is this?" I screamed at Kendall, which at best sounded like a whisper in the middle of a crowd at a heavy metal concert.
This is what happens when you die, Francine.
What? What the fuck are you talking about? What are they?
Spirits, Fran. Spirits of people who've died.
You mean like...
Ghosts? Yeah, pretty much, except, well...
He turned towards the direction the streaks were heading in. I did the same, and when I saw what was happening to them, I remember screaming harder than I'd ever screamed in my life, even harder than the time I was being chased by the rabid dog in my neighbourhood who'd gotten loose from its leash. They all twisted and stretched until finally they dissipated almost entirely, leaving only their screaming faces forming what looked to be some sort of body of a person, only this thing had 4 long and gangly arms, while the faces seemed to compose the entirety of its body. "What is that?" I cried. Replied Kendall, his voice shaking. The first and only time I'd heard his voice changed at all from his earlier stoic demeanour.
Here's the end, Francine. This is what happens to our spirits when we die. We're claimed by and joined in him.
My head spun while at the same time remaining stiff as a board. It was primed to explode from all the input, visually and auditorily, and my heart was threatening to stop dead at any second if something didn't change soon, if something didn't calm the chaos. Thankfully, what happened not 2 seconds later was just that. I remember blinking, and all of a sudden I was back in the classroom, sitting at my desk. Everyone around me was looking at me. Some of them were raising their eyebrows at me, while others had bug eyes, giving me the look you give someone you just barely helped bring out of a drug overdose. My thunderous heartbeat echoed in my ears while the room shook for almost a full minute and a half. In that span of time, though I could actually see the others around me, they might as well not have been there. Not as people, anyway. To me, they appeared as ghosts themselves, like Kendall had. Eventually, the adrenaline died down and I could see my normal classmates again. As soon as my breathing steadied out, I immediately asked if I could run to the bathroom, feeling nausea charging up from my stomach at a pace that would have made bulls at a rodeo jealous. I didn't even make it to the damn commode before I spilled at both breakfast and lunch from that day, maybe even a little of the night before's dinner as well. By the time I was finally to a point where all there was dry heaves, I felt like I'd just hurled 10 pounds or more up, right there in the floor of the girls' bathroom. Even still, I felt extremely weak. My legs wobbled like the legs had wet spaghetti noodles instead of bones in them. My vision was clouded as well.
I'm sorry I had to do that, Fran.
My head snapped around behind me, but saw no one. Who? Where? No, what are you? I heard him sigh.
Alright, to answer your question, again, I'm Kendall. I used to go here.
Oh, okay, but then, how are you?
And to answer the other question you've had this entire time, yes, I'm dead. How I'm here? Well, that's complicated to explain accurately, but for the sake of simplicity, I guess you could say that I escaped.
Escaped? You mean from that...
Yeah, it was a close call, but yeah, I managed to escape.
How?
I don't really know, I just did. I managed to outrun him. Time's running out though, which is why I need you.
What do you mean?
Well, you've seen now what's been happening, right?
Yeah, but I don't.
Yeah, I know you don't. You kind of can't. Not completely anyway. Not till you're dead like me. The point is though, time's running out. He's taking more and more of us.
Who?
All of us. And not just the dead either. No, he's taking the living too. I've seen it happening everywhere.
Wait, hold on. I'm confused. What the hell are you talking about? Taking the living? How?
Like I said, you won't know it because you're still alive. But they're out there. Pieces of him. At the end. And they're taking more and more each day.
My mouth dropped open, but I hesitated to ask what I wanted to, which was to ask the exact same question I had before.
Look, I can't talk anymore, and I don't think I'll be able to run from him anymore. Honestly.
He sighed again, and this time I could actually feel the exhaustion in his voice. The defeat.
Honestly, I don't think I want to anymore. I've done it for so long now.
But, you're just gonna give up?
Yeah,
he replied bluntly.
Being honest, Fran, there wasn't any point in running anyway. I see that now.
But then, what the hell was the point of?
I told you to send a message, spread awareness. I want you to tell everyone about what I've shown you.
Why though? If there's no point in resistance, then why do I need to?
Because people should know the truth, shouldn't they?
Yeah, but... My throat suddenly tightened.
But what?
But how am I going to make them believe me? I mean, hell, I'm still not sure I haven't lost my damn mind. And I can't just do whatever you did and make them see what I did, so...
I won't lie to you, they probably won't believe you. Part of that's going to be the fact that they aren't able to.
What? My head was throbbing now, riddled and pressured with so many fucking questions. Some of them spawning from this kid's cryptic as hell explanations.
When he takes them, they cease to exist, mainly in the hearts and minds of everyone still alive. Think about it. You notice how over time you forget about someone who's died?
I guess.
That's because he's claimed them. They've been taken into the end, where any trace of their consciousness vanishes from the hearts and minds of anyone alive.
But then, how can I still remember my grandma?
Because, like me, she managed to run as well. I don't know really. I mean, it's not like any of us actually get to know each other, but if you can still remember her, then she's...
Then she's still around, I blurted.
More or less, yeah.
Now I was floored. My grandma had been killed in a car accident when I was only 3 years old. Now I was hearing that she could still be around, like Kendall. Sure, it wasn't the same. She wasn't alive, but she was still here. Kendall spoke again, and this time I began to hear his voice ebb away.
Time's up, friend.
Wait, hold on. What are you?
The end's found me. I can't stay any longer.
Wait a second. Don't.
Promise me you'll spread the word, friend. Please.
I made a sound to speak, but my mouth wouldn't form the words. With the last fragment of his voice, I heard him tell me,
The world needs to know.
He was gone after that. Like before, I could feel him disappear. Thing is, this time I couldn't just feel him go away like I did before. Last time, he just simply walked away, in a manner of speaking. Not this time. This was it. He was gone for good. Almost immediately after he was gone, I began to understand what he meant about fading from memory. Things get a bit hazy here because of this. I forgot about him. Yes, at least who he was as a person, really. I want to say that there was more to my encounter with him, more to his personality, but I really can't remember. There's probably a lot of what he'd said that I'd forgotten as well. You know what I haven't forgotten about though? I never forgot about what I saw that day. I couldn't. For better or worse, having spent a long time after that in the psych ward for severe night terrors, and at one point trying to cut my eyelids off so I wouldn't see them anymore whenever I closed my eyes. I still remembered. I remember my promise as well. That's not the only reason I'm writing this though. It took me a long time, mostly because while I could remember my promise and what I saw, I couldn't remember really why I'd made it. And even if I did, none of it made much sense to me anyway. Last week though, I realised that looking at the photo on my bedside table of me, my mother, and an older woman who looks like an older version of my mother, but that was completely unrecognisable to me. I know I'm supposed to say it's my grandmother in the photo, but any time I try to remember her, what she looks like, my brain goes completely blank. I can't remember. I can't remember her, the voice, or any time I had, or might have, maybe, spent with her. I don't even remember having a grandma. That's when it fully kicked in. I was made to explain this all to you, the world, to show you all the truth. People have always wondered if there's life after death, right? Well, I was shown by Kendall, which may or may not have even been the name he said it was. That there isn't. There's only the end, and it's coming for the living too. I'll leave this with one last note. Ever since I was touched by him, shown everything that I was, I've been able to see things differently. Certain people I see aren't people at all. Not anymore. They're gone, I guess you could say. By this, I mean like how I was told the end would take people that were alive as well as the spirits of the dead. I could see what appeared to be this dark mist surrounding their bodies. These people all have something else in common. They all walk in this crooked, drunken fashion. Which was why he told me that I wouldn't notice them as I was. Alive. Untouched. They look like regular people, perhaps just drunk. But I know they are not. They have no soul, no substance to them. They are husks, walking, skulking husks that, when they find someone not like them, I've seen them brutally attacked by forcing them to the ground and prying their jaws apart while a dark, shapeless thing comes out of their mouths and worms into the victim's throats, forcefully inducting them into their own ranks. I remember how shocking it was when I realised I could see all of this. Then once the realisation kicked in that this wasn't any kind of dream, that nothing of what had happened to me, bizarre and confusing as it was a fucking dream. It was all the truth, and I have to share it. I made a promise to a ghost whose name or face has lost any and all form and meaning. The end of everything is coming. This was the message I was made to share by a ghost. And I hope you all enjoy the blooper reel. It was one day at lunch under the bleachers in the football field where fuck's sake. It was one day at lunch under the bleachers in the football field where I always ate with Tori and Jacob. Then I ended up being about 3 minutes late back to class, which if it were for... I heard a sigh from him before. All of a sudden, The most I could do was to twitch violently. Bloody dog snoring. When the fingers, for lack of an... He continued, this voice. It was like I was seeing the world's... The look he was giving me told me I was like... leaving only their screaming faces forming what looked to be some... Only this thing had 4 long and gangly arms while the faces seemed to... Shush you. Stop snoring, bloody dog. Eventually, the adrenaline died down and I could see the normal things getting... That's not the real... I was made to explain this, which may or may not even have been this... Which may or may not have even been the... Fuck's sake. This was the message I was made to share by. The end of everything is coming. Hey family, please be so kind as to throat punch the like button and smack the ass of the subscription button as well. And remember to chokehold that notification bell and then select all. That way you'll receive all notifications each time I upload a new video. and by subscribing you'll be the first to see all of our new spooky creepypasta stories. A very big thank you to Corpse Child for allowing me to narrate this awesome story. And why not? Hashtag Cryptids Roost in the comments. If you would like to support us and make a donation, I'd be very much appreciative. I do have PayPal and a Buy Me a Coffee account. I have a subreddit and or email if you would like to submit a story you've written that you would like me to narrate for you. You can also follow us. All my socials and all my other links are contained within the Linktree link below. And don't forget to check out the end screen, see above, that will also list some more videos in my back catalogue. All the links are below. Take care everyone, and I hope you all have a wonderful and peaceful night. And don't forget, where fear is, happiness is.